Each year, CDCB has invited candidates for the City Commission to visit with us in different ways about issues concerning low to moderate income residents of our city and how these concerns and dreams always revolve around the issues of financial security and the creation of wealth for each of these families. CDCB's main work is concentrated in the housing arena, and we focus on how to use affordable housing as a path to increase wealth for individuals, families, and the city. In order to give everyone here tonight the size and the interest of this topic for Brownsville residents, I want to share a quick stat. Last March 2020, CDCB had 45 new applicants that wanted to buy a house to complete our pre-application online. This was a pretty good month, pretty big number for a city our size. We were excited. However, this past March in 2021, CDCB had 285 applicants complete a pre-application online. 600% increase. This issue is one of the most important for our young and growing population, and becoming more important as the cost of housing is rising. A little bit about who we are, those of you who don't know. CDCB has been operating since 1974, and we are the largest nonprofit producer of affordable housing for home ownership in the state of Texas, and one of the largest producers of housing for all types in Cameron County. CDCB has a combined total asset value of just under $90 million. In just the past 10 years alone, CDCB has originated over $87 million in first lien mortgages and small dollar loans. CDCB has awarded another $25 million in grants to low-income families to build their new home or rehabilitate their old home. We have developed over $45 million in new rental properties for low-income families. And over the past 10 years, we have graduated over 150 students from our Youth Build program and assisted over 30,000 people with financial coaching and counseling. And in just the past 10 months, since the start of COVID-19,
I'm not sure how much of a boring forum it's going to be.
Families with $983,000 in COVID emergency rental and mortgage assistance.
I'm hoping that it's going to pick up some.
CDCB has driven $189 million into the local economy, building and or financing affordable housing for about 1,500 families, bringing financial education to another 30,000 people, as well as generating over $20 million in property taxes. And today you are participating in CDCB's newest project, People Policy Power, or P3. CDCB approaches our approach to public policy engagement that focuses on issues of wealth creation for families living in the Rio Grande Valley. P3 produces issue-focused fact sheets, webinars, blog posts, and policy recommendations for local, like our guest today, state and federal elected officials and departments. I want to thank the candidates for joining us today, and I want to lay down just a few ground rules before we start. This is not a debate, and we do not have any gotcha questions. Actually, we supplied all the questions to the candidates beforehand because we wanted them to fully engage in this conversation. And by supplying the questions beforehand, we figured and we hoped that the candidates would have done some research into the issue of affordable housing and how they, as possible elected officials of our city, can improve the affordable housing situation for our residents. If members of the audience have questions, please put those in the chat function, and we'll get to those before we end tonight. I now want to ask the candidates to take 1 minute to introduce themselves, and I will call you out in alphabetical order. Please just take a minute or less, and we really want to get to the meat of our conversation. So I am going to call on those who I'm not sure everybody who's here. So is Mr. Cardenas here? Mr. Castro?
Yes, I am here.
Great. Take a minute to introduce yourself. That'd be great.
Thank you all so much for having this forum and the opportunity to share one's platform. My name is Erasmo Castro. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Brownsville. I grew up and raised down south most. All my schooling, my public education schooling has been here in the city of Brownsville. I have a bachelor's degree in Christian studies from Austin Graduate School of Theology. I think that I am well versed in regards to the everyday happenings of the city of Brownsville because of the constant communication that I have with folks throughout the city. And I'm very, very proud to be running this race with fellow commissioners and with other members of the community. And it is my hope that we all continue to encourage individuals to please, is to come out to vote. The voter turnout has been low, and we need your voice to be heard um, as per your vote. So please continue to encourage folks to come out and vote. It is a very, very important election.
Great, thank you. Mr. De Los Santos.
Thank you. Roy De Los Santos, born and raised in Brownsville, Texas, grew up on Southmost Road, graduated about a high school class of 92.
Hey, Kat.
My undergrad degree is in marketing management, and I also hold a master's in business administration.
Hey, Oscar.
I've been with AT&T for over 21 years. I'm a senior business manager for sales operations. My experience with the company has been in working as part of a team and in leading teams in customer care, customer experience, and executive and regulatory complaints and solving people's problems. I've also got background in the hospitality and tourism industry, as well as healthcare and public relations and administration. Over the last several years, I've been involved in several nonprofits, including Sombrero Festival, and that's a big one because there we lead people, and it was a struggling organization when I joined, and we had to find solutions to turn around that event. And it is the premier event in South Texas. We're very proud of what we've accomplished, and that is as part of a team. No man could do that alone. But the experience I gained over the last 15 years with that festival, I apply in everything else I do in life. And a lot of those skills serve me well, even with AT&T. And they've given me a lot of experience that I can bring to the city of Brownsville. Aside from that, I've served on several city boards. I'm on the Board of Adjustment right now. So I've got some real good insight. And I've served for over 10 years on the Board of Adjustment at South Padre Island and in Brownsville. I've got great insight in municipal law, in state statute, and in making sure that the laws are applied fairly and equally for all citizens. I've had to go toe-to-toe with the city commission before when I felt like citizens' rights were being violated. And I'm happy to say that by being well prepared and doing your own homework, you can absolutely be victorious. So that's what I hope to do as a city commissioner, is fight for the things that are still lacking in our community.
Great, thank you. Mr. Elizondo. Is he with us? Okay, Dr. Gowan.
Hello, and thank you for having the forum. My name is Rose Gowan, and I was born and raised here in Brownsville on Lewis Street, and we used to ride our bikes to the city dump, which is now where Pace High School was, on a regular basis, and get chased by dogs while we did it. It was fun. It was a great way to grow up, and I will thank my parents for that always. My father was a teacher. My mother was a homemaker. They valued Catholic education, and so they moved heaven and earth to provide that for my sister and I. I grew up wanting to be a physician, and thankfully, with a lot of support from family and my husband, I did earn my medical doctorate degree and went on to become an obstetrician and moved back home in 1994 to make a difference in my community where I grew up. I have been very successful in doing that, and it is very heartwarming to see all the children that I've delivered throughout the years, now grown and adults, and some returning for care themselves. About 12 years ago, I was introduced to the School of Public Health and learned about the rates of diabetes and related illnesses, and felt I needed once again to do something, and that led me to write a column in the newspaper that is now written by Lisa Mitchell-Bennett, and help with beginning a farmer's market. And really that was the introduction to politics for me, civic engagement and learning about ordinances and zoning and a lot of red tape that really should not exist for things that are good, but for the community, like a farmer's market. So I ran, and my constant passion is to look for areas within the community in all aspects that will impact the ability of people to choose healthy as an easy choice, so that we can reduce rates of diabetes and guarantee that the next generation does not grow up rather expecting and really always becoming diabetic. This impacts our economy in more ways than most people understand. And that is my passion. My recent projects that I am extremely passionate about are completing the West Rail Trail and the Cannery Market that is very close to groundbreaking, and many other things that will create a vibrant community where people will want to live and where access to amenities and vibrancy is available for people of all income levels, and not just those with means. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bullcrap.
Mr. Neese.
Greetings, everyone. And again, also, I'd like to say thanks for inviting me to this forum. My name is Ben Neese. I'm currently the Commissioner for District 4, downtown Brownsville, on the west side of the city. I was born here in Brownsville, 1955, and by the time I was 5 years old, my parents divorced, and I was raised by a single Hispanic mom, and that was Ruby and Jose Neese. So I know a little bit about those struggles that we're going to be talking about today. And then I went through high school, got out of Brownsville High School in 1973, went to St. Mary's and got my political science degree, Bachelor of Arts, in 1977. Then I went on to the law school there, St. Mary's, and got my Juris Doctor degree. And I've been practicing since 1981, so this is going to be my 40th year. I was also serving as the municipal judge for 32 years for the city of Brownsville. So I have been eyewitness to lots of developments over these last 32 years here at the city, directly involved as an employee, or rather a public official. And also later, after I retired in 2016, I ran for office 6 months to the day I was elected and sworn into the seat. Since then, I have become a member of the board of the Brownsville Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation, the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation, the TERS number 3 for the downtown area. I'm on the Main Street board, also chairman of the Ozanam Center, where we deal with a lot of homeless issues. And there are other areas that I've been focusing on as a commissioner, and I want to continue doing that. So I'm here to present myself, and I think that we can talk a lot about this affordable housing issues that you want to bring up tonight. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Velez.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Mr. Mitchell, for the invitation to be at this forum. And well, my name is Alberto Velez. I was born here in Brownsville, Texas, back in '78. I had a little bit of a different childhood. My parents worked here in Brownsville, and I attended school in Matamoros, but I would actually spend the weekends, summers, and sometimes even the afternoons in Brownsville. My dad was a taxi driver for Brownsville Taxi Company in downtown Brownsville, and my mother worked for Model Laundry for, I don't know, until the day they closed, over 20 some years. My grandmother also worked at Model Laundry, and she lived at Villa del Sol complex. I grew up between the two cities. I was very familiar with both. I attended Pace High School, graduated in '97, and got my business degree from UTB-TSC in 2002. And ever since I was in high school, I was involved in community service. Through my years of college, I was involved in community service. I myself, I was a product of a low-income family. My dad passed away in '95 when I was only 16 years old. And I just kept going. I never gave up. I went to school, managed to get my degree, and become a professional. I have worked in many areas, including H&R Block, A&B Lopez Supermarket. I worked for the Migrant Department, MBISD. I worked for IBC Bank for a couple of years. I even worked for the City of San Benito on a project. Worked as a primary administrator for the Democratic Party back in 2002, 2003. And since 2004, I got hired by Brownsville Independent School District. I've been a teacher for the past 15 years, and I've always been involved. I've always been involved with the community. I've always been close to the low-income communities in our city, to the low-income families in Brownsville. I've been involved in different activities. I was a product also of Leadership Brownsville, which gave me the insight of a lot of things that happen in our great city that not every citizen or any regular person will get to see on a day-to-day basis. Throughout my years at Porter, I have been teaching business courses. I have a degree in business. I have some graduate coursework in business, in education, in leadership. And
Oh my gosh.
I try to bring that all.
I thought they said a minute introduction.
When it's all about my students.
1
They
minute
become
introduction.
the citizens of our great city, and it is in my best interest and the best interest of everybody that they become responsible citizens and that they understand basically what adulthood is all about. I teach Money Matters, been teaching it for the past 13 years, and we cover everything. I have met Ms. Soraima before in some of the projects that I've been involved. I was involved with the volunteer income tax assistance for 10 years at Porter High School.
A minute, guys, a minute.
Took this initiative back in 2010 and brought it to the school district and spread it out through all the high schools. I know what it is to work with those families that need this. My mother was a recipient of a grant by the city of Brownsville. And I have seen the work that you guys do, and I am very grateful for what you guys are doing in our community. I feel I am the best candidate for District 4. I am a product of District 4. My family lives in District 4. My kids go to school in District 4, and I do business with people in our district. I
minute.
Almost every
A minute.
I know the needs of District 4, and I'm ready to serve. I'm doing it because I'm grateful to the city.
A minute.
And I want to bring back a lot of those neighborhoods that have been underserved, that have been neglected.
A minute.
And I think we all have the same right to be looked at and to be taken care of. And a lot of the communities, unbelievable, but we live in one of the greatest countries on earth, and we have some of the poorest communities in this country. 5 years ago, we were known. A minute! Great America, and now we're on the other end of the table. Things are looking better, and I am committed to serve and to do everything that is in the best interest of the city. And obviously, affordable housing is a major, major concern.
Can y'all not hear me?
I went through it myself as a teenager.
Can y'all hear me?
And
guys?
I saw how my parents struggled to buy a house. And part of
Can y'all hear
finance, I talk about buying a house, and not only buying a house, but what goes after that, setting up a will and not leaving.
What part of 1 minute has not been made clear?
It is
1 minute.
I guess owning a house. So I think all this, it's all part of
1 minute.
that combo that people need to know, not just get them excited about buying a house, but all the responsibilities.
Oh!
Great.
So thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight.
Great, thank you very much. I believe Mr. Elizondo is with us. Mr. Elizondo, quick introduction. I thought I saw his name pop up, so I don't want to.
Nick, I think he's having perhaps some connectivity issue because we've seen him jump on and jump off. I don't think he's on at the moment.
Okay, all right. Well, if he comes on, we can make sure that we get back to him. All right. Well, great. Thank you all for being with us. I now want to turn the rest of this program over to Zoraima Diaz, who is our Director of Policy, and she will go through our questions.
Because I'm on mute on that one.
Thank you, Nick, for the introduction. Thank you again to all the candidates for joining us this evening and for our participants. We have a few slides of just information pertinent to the topic that we'd like to share before we start asking a few questions. All of the candidates were provided this information ahead of time, and if anyone would like a copy afterwards, please let us know. We'll make it available on our website. So one of the first things we're going to start with this evening, we know that according to the Texas A&M Real Estate Center, the Brownsville-Harlingen MSA is the least affordable MSA of all 26 metro areas in the state of Texas. From 2011 to 2020, the median sales price in the Brownsville-Harlingen MSA increased from 70.8%, from $101,000 to $173,000. Just during 2020, the median sales price has risen by 15.3%. What's important here to note is that incomes, unfortunately, median incomes have remained stagnant, hovering around $37,900 during this period of time. In addition to that, we also know that the proportion of homes that are available for sale under $100,000 has decreased significantly as the median home sales price continues to rise. Given this information, what solutions do you propose to ensure that low to moderate income households earning less than 80% of the median area income are not priced out of homeownership? We would like for each of the candidates to respond. Again, we'll go in alphabetical order. We would really appreciate it if you could keep your remarks to 2 minutes, so we'll have enough time to get to the other questions. So, Mr. Cardenas, I don't think he's online. Mr. Castro, if you'd like to begin.
Well, again, thank you so much for providing this information. I don't think that this information is something that is not well known throughout the community. I think it is something that is really very, very concerning to a lot of folks, especially with a lot of the measures that have been introduced as of recent by the current city commission. And again, one of the things that we'd hope is that for our areas that are going to be hit the hardest with a lot of the proposed measures that are being introduced, including a lot of the pet projects that have been going on in the city of Brownsville, where we have not been able to bring in any economic development whatsoever into our area, as proven by the charts that you just showed in regards to to us being stagnant. One of the things that I think is very important is to address these issues directly. And unfortunately for us, it seems that these points only get mentioned every 2 years when individuals are running for office. But as is proven, I mean, we've had these issues since 2011, and I'm going to say even farther than that. We need to make sure that we produce jobs suffice to be able to let individuals be able to afford a lot of things that they would want to have here in the city of Brownsville, instead of looking elsewhere. Y'all's concerns have been my concerns for years now, especially in regards to having our prime resource here in the city of Brownsville move away and not coming back to the city of Brownsville. And it is something that we really need to make mention of and actually address in a way of making folks responsible for the lack of business coming into our area. One of the things that I think has been touted constantly and regularly, again, especially during election season, is how these big organizations are coming in and going to produce all these jobs, these high-paying jobs, which, again, proven by your charts, has not happened. We need to make sure that we cater to individuals that are actually going to establish business here in the city of Brownsville. We need to provide some vocational training out there for our folks when certain jobs come into our area, so that individuals that come and start these businesses or these endeavors here in the city of Brownsville don't have to be catering to individuals coming in from other parts of the country to take the jobs that should go to the people of Brownsville, so that they could be able to afford homes here. Again, and very, very quickly, one of the biggest concerns for our people here on the west side is this money that's coming in from SpaceX and the issue with gentrification and making a lot of our poorer neighborhoods and our poorer areas ill affordable to a lot of folk out here. And it's very simple. All anyone has to do, besides looking at these charts, is look at their appraised value on their properties, because the appraised values on the properties for a lot of our folk went up 30, 35, 40, some $60,000. And that means a tax increase, no matter how much a lot of elected officials tout that they've decreased taxes, it is really, really hurting our folk. So we need to make sure that the jobs that are coming into the city of Brownsville go to our individuals, but we need to provide some form of training so that they can be well qualified for these positions.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. Mr. De Los Santos.
Thank you. I'm setting my timer so that I don't go over for you guys. So this is a great question. I really think the proper approach on this is, in long run, we want to work on improving the wages, work on the economic development, work on education, work on job training. I don't want our first and foremost goal to be, how do we make sure that while people are at a poverty level, they can still afford to buy a house. We want to raise them up and out of that. And part of that is through economic development and bringing in better paying jobs. And there are programs that are already engaged in that coming into our community. But we need to put protections in place until we can start to reap the benefits of these things that are coming into play today. So increasing the funding for down payment assistance, that's something that I see that you all already recommend. That's something I agree with completely. One of the other big items for me, especially when we talk about promoting new construction, one of the reasons we don't have enough of that, especially in the area of affordable housing, is because our permitting process is horrendous. In my capacity as a member of the Board of Adjustment, we have builders, developers, property owners that come through all the time, and consistently, I have heard for years, Brownsville is the hardest city to work with in South Texas. I know commercial real estate brokers who have clients that are opening businesses all over Texas, and they come and they just drive through our city. And because of the layout, because of the planning that hasn't been comprehensive and properly laid out for the future, they just turn away immediately. For those that think that they could still make it work, they look into Brownsville some more and they find out it's going to be a rat race, and the bureaucracy of trying to get a permit and trying to get things done drags on forever. We all know time is money. So the best way that we can do that is to revamp that process, make Brownsville the premier city to do business with, especially when it comes to opening a new business.
I'm at the office.
Creating a new subdivision, new development, anything.
Yes, you're supposed to be on.
Requires a permit. It should be a one-stop shop at our downtown offices.
No,
and someone should be.
no,
Thank you.
Mr. De Los Santos. Dr. Gowan.
The
Thank you.
CD.
So I think the first thing that we have to do is something that I personally have supported and others have as well, and that is to support our housing authority and CDCB in your efforts. You have done an exceptional job.
Yes, I'm sure it's an ocho.
People, and not just building little box homes, but rather having the people themselves have a say in the way their homes look and how they're configured, and really engage them and educate them so that they can be homeowners that are happy and productive, and really remain in their homes with the education and the support that you give them, not to mention the wonderful down payment assistance programs that you provide. In terms of the housing authority, I would point out the El Jardín downtown is just about to be hopefully approved. It's on the last pieces of approval. And the project is a tax credit project that would not have been very competitive if it hadn't been for the fact that the city had a downtown development plan in place and a TERS in place already. Those things that we did in anticipation of trying to encourage people to live in the downtown area of mixed income levels made a tax credit project like that much more competitive. Same with Trail Village, same with many of the projects that you promote as well. Support the low income builders and the low income housing authority. Certainly, we need to increase wages as much as we can locally and support the increase of wages on a federal level. And certainly, we need to promote economic development. And although it's never perfect, there have been great strides in economic development, job force and workforce training. We've worked with TSC and Workforce Solution and the organization that you mentioned when you did your introduction, Nick, to provide opportunities and education for our people to be able to be workforce ready. And that needs to continue and even build in robustness. And when I say workforce ready, I mean education. I mean training, if not a degree, but training. And I also mean health and wellness, because workforce ready means that you are healthy enough to hold a job and maintain it for a good long while without becoming disabled along the way. We need to connect, as a city, we need to connect industry with our labor force, and we are working on ways to do that in improved methods. And overall, do a good job at increasing jobs, increasing wages, improving people's health, and supporting them once they do become a homeowner, whether that home is enormous or whether that home is tiny or whether it's an apartment condominium complex or multifamily home, and support that in a multi-generational way, since many of our families live in multi-generational situations. Affording a home, building a home, is not just about a house. It's about supporting and building a family and empowering them to thrive. And that is what I support, and I will support you in continuing to do so, and all the things that I listed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gowan. Mr. Neese.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, where do I start? We'll start with permitting. Just last night, and the complaints that were aired just now, last night we authorized the purchase of some extensive software, which happens to be the exact same software that McAllen uses. And this software makes it so easy to initiate a project. They can do it literally from their own office. Everything from scheduling their appointments, submitting their digital plans, all their designs.
Sorry, guys.
And this software, in conjunction with our complete unification of all the building codes, is set Brownsville way ahead of the pack here. Okay, so that comparison with McAllen,
Me dio los
forget
munchies.
about that now. So they're the unified code, and then throw into the mix, the eBridge Center downtown for helping businesses who want to start up, go through the permitting processes, go through the PUB processes. It's all going to be a lot easier, and it's all right on the horizon. And going to number two here, it's not that it just started here this last 2 years or right before this election. This is a long process over the last 4 years. There's been a restructuring. A lot of these things. And I'm just touching on those right now because we're talking about affordable housing. So, as you know, Nick and the others, doing a great job downtown at the Summit building. The Housing Authority is doing a great job at the El Jardín. And that's because the city has been supporting them right now, 2 weeks before the election. Okay, we've been working for their tax credits. All the other things, providing a TERS, which helps not only downtown, but other projects throughout that community. TERSs are available, and also tax incentives can be sought out as well. So these are things that we actually are doing, and we're trying to find newer things, other things to make it streamlined. Because when I first came in, I issued right before I retired, I issued 3 warrants for bribery for 3 of the permitting guys. Okay, that's when I just knew that the town was messed up and I had to do something. So I decided to run. I retired and ran, and those guys got convicted, and things have changed since then. So you know. All right, so the other thing is that PUB needs to step up to the plate. There needs to be some restructuring of the impact fees, and to where right now we have 3 zones to make it easier, like it's less expensive downtown where there's already structure standing, and as you go out, but that can be tweaked out some more. And this is something that should be relying on public input. So, and there have been many workshops in conjunction with and other types of
No.
forums that have been held for public input, which is very important and which we have used during the last 4 years, at least while I've been there, to input and integrate into what we're planning and what we're doing. So that's my talk on affordable housing.
Thank you, Mr. Neese. Mr. Bellis.
Not true.
All right, so this goes back to this question.
2 minutes.
Definitely goes back to I've been going over how 5 years ago we were known as the poorest city and one of the poorest communities in the whole country. Cameron County as a whole and Brownsville specifically.
Brownsville, Harlingen area. Yes.
So this has been going on for many years.
Too many years.
All those families in the low to moderate income, I guess brackets, they struggle to find a decent home in town. And there's programs out there like you guys that are trying to I guess break this gap and bridge these low income families with affordable housing and a decent house, decent home. Right now, in the current conditions that we're in, this unprecedented pandemic has caused chaos with affordable housing.
Not just this pandemic.
Just in over a year, the prices of building a new house have gone up 2, 3, in some cases, some of the material has gone up 400 or 500%. So talking about doing something right now, it is going to be just a patch. This now one of the biggest challenges we have in people not earning decent incomes. Unfortunately, a lot of the citizens of this great city of Brownsville are on survival mode, and they'll rather make a few bucks just to bring something to the table. The closing of the borders has been a big challenge because it is no secret to all of us that a lot of people from across were being hired for low wages. So right now we're on survival mode. We are bringing our own people to do the jobs that many others were doing before. And at this time, paying labor has gone up, materials have gone up, and has caused building a new house go up in price. At the federal level, we are experiencing a reflation. Our federal government has stimulated our economy to a point where the demand is much higher than the supply, and that is causing prices to go up again. At this point, I think we need to be cautious, all of us. We need to be cautious of what we do. The needs for affordable housing is still going to be present. Our ecosystem is different. We're right on the border, and the way we operate and the way we live and our demographics are very different than McAllen and the most cities away from the border. We're really next.
Time!
So, yes, ma'am.
I don't want to cut you off, but we're trying to keep everyone to 2 minutes if you don't mind,
Okay.
so that we can get to the rest of the questions. No.
All right. So I guess at the end, part of what we need to continue to do is support programs like CDCB, and I know the city has its own grants program, and I know the county and other entities are doing their part.
They're not!
Coming together and creating a synergy could be a remedy for this constant issue that we have.
Thank you.
Oh my
And
Lord.
to dovetail off of what Mr. Velez and all of the candidates mentioned, we know that there has been a disproportionate impact in terms of public health and economic security and stability on households of color and low to moderate income households across the United States over the last 12 months. Some of you might know that although CDCB has a focus traditionally on homeownership, we're also very concerned with housing stability and instability for individuals who are tenants. Now, despite the national moratorium, the CDC moratorium on evictions that was issued in March, the documents that we were able to collect directly from the JP courts in Cameron County indicate that 551 evictions were filed from April through December of 2020. Again, this was during the CDC eviction moratorium. The moratorium has now been extended until June. What strategies do you propose to stabilize housing specifically for tenants in this moment? We'll begin again with Mr. Gusto.
Well, thank you for the question. Let me just touch on something very quick. You did mention the health crisis that has been going on for the past year with the pandemic and is still going on. And I think one of the things that has been very concerning to a lot of us here is, that our local entities hadn't been adhering to a lot of the recommendations, suggestions from the CDC and from the federal government in regards to individuals being able to get kicked out of their homes. And again, it goes back to individuals not being able to pay their rent. But I don't think it's been an issue solely because of the pandemic. It is something that goes back into economic development. We don't have the monies here for our individuals to be able to afford. And with the continuing rise in costs of everything that is around us, there's just no way to balance anything out. It's very, very unfortunate a lot of our youth have to start working at an early age instead of dedicating their time to their studies because of this. But, we have a lot of our high school students, folks, a lot of our high school students that are supporting their households in part because of the parent units. And as one of the candidates mentioned, they've single parent home. We find a lot of these here. And guys, we need to make sure that we are doing everything in our power, to deal with the issues that are most concerning to individuals. And one of the most concerning issues for our folks is, where they're going to lie their head at night, and that they're going to be able to have a home to go back to, and a home to call their own. But again, our senior leadership has failed us and has been failing us for the past 12 years. And again, I go back to the charts that you shared. For the past 12 years, we've been stagnant. And one of the things that I'm hoping is that the citizens of Brownsville are fed up with 12 years of being stagnant, where monies that should have been going back to the people of the city of Brownsville have been spent on special nicks out there, special projects, some things that appease one board member, then benefit a certain group and not the city of Brownsville as a whole. We don't want to be the poorest community in the country anymore. We want our...
Mr. Castro, you reached your 2 minutes. I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're going to have to go to the next candidate. We will have an opportunity to return. Thank you. Mr. Dos Santos.
Thank you. And this is a tough one. This is not a one-facet issue. And I know that the question is looking at this from the perspective of specifically for the tenants. But this isn't just an issue that affects tenants. This is an issue that affects landlords as well, because while there's a moratorium on evictions, is there a moratorium on foreclosures? Because those property owners still have to pay their mortgages and pay their bills as well. And they still have to feed their families.
Like
for someone that has rental properties, and that's how they survive and that's how they make their living. They're in a pretty bad situation right now. The other thing we need to think about is, as a city, whatever possible protections we can put in place locally, and we've seen this happen through the pandemic, can be overridden by the state of Texas, can be overridden by the federal government. And anytime any city's proactive in doing things, folks who have the money and the power to do stuff will start lobbying and buying special interests in Austin, and suddenly they pass something that overrides anything that we could do to protect people. If somebody with more lobbying and more PAC dollars goes out there and wants to protect the banks instead of the tenants, or the property owners instead of the tenants. So I think we, as a city, what we need to do, what we can do, we need to look at lobbying our state officials and making sure that laws are passed at the state level that protect both the property owner. Lobby. Every time we want to do something to protect either the tenant. Nothing ever gets accomplished when people are not served.
Thank you. Next, Dr. Gowan.
It is a tricky issue, as Mr. Los Santos alluded to, because there are two people, the tenant and the landlord. And I think one thing that this city can do is to promote or provide opportunities for the landlords to connect with the tenants and get to know each other, so that they can talk about perhaps some common areas or common ground that they can reach together. I know some communities are working on mediation programs for situations like this. And I know that some cities are, and I'm not sure whether Brownsville is or not, perhaps Commissioner Neese can answer this, whether or not if you're evicted, you're allowed to have counsel present when you go through
How
all
the
of
hell
that.
does she
And I
even
don't know the
know?
answer to that. We do know that many people that are evicted eventually become homeless, and we do want to protect against that. And certainly public health is a big part of it, because as I said, if you're not healthy, you cannot hold a job, or maybe you're healthy, but you have to stay home and take care of your grandmother or your brother or sister or parent. And that makes it difficult as well. And I would take a second to take my hat off to CDCB, because you have been our constant partner in public health for all the many programs
shut
that we have conducted, and
up.
are seeing scientific rates of diabetes reduced over the
No,
last 10 years. So
no,
we can prove that the rates of
No.
diabetes have decreased, and
lie.
that is in large part to the partners like yourselves. And I think that as we help people to retain
Lies.
their jobs, we will also impact the rates of eviction.
No.
So working together with tenants and landlords, education as you provide to educate families on how to manage their money is important. Looking into whether or not folks are allowed counsel and mediation programs, I think, are very important, as well as promoting
Guys, I
the
have to
federal
go.
government to
I have
extend
to leave.
the eviction moratorium, so that we at the state and even local level can do so as well, if that suits.
Thank you, Dr. Gowan.
Excuse me?
Mr.
Yes,
Yes, Mr. Castro.
I'm going to say goodbye. I have worship service. Thank you all so very much. Thank you to all the candidates that showed up. Thank you all for holding this. God bless.
God
And,
bless you, Mr. Castro.
bye, Mr.
Thank you for
Anise. Commissioner Anise, God bless.
participating.
See you
Thank
soon.
Mr. Neese.
Okay, thank you. Contrary to what Mr. Castro was saying, things aren't stagnant, and CDCB is a perfect example. But even beyond that, you have what the Housing Authority has done, over $100 million in projects that over the last 8 to 10 years that have been in process. Okay, and we're going to see the culmination of one.
The chart said stagnant.
Speaking about stabilization, okay, evictions. First of all, we cannot, the city cannot preempt.
Shut up, Neese.
Federal law, okay? We cannot do that. Now, what we can do is try to.
Bye, guys. I need to go. I have to go to worship. God bless. I'll be back at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock for another forum, and then 9 o'clock for our show. God bless. Take care. Be safe, and see y'all in a bit. Hasta luego.